cable is not considered to be outside the building, and National Electrical Code Section 230.70 does apply. The rationale is based on several points. Firstly, let's consider the National Electrical Code definition of outside as found in Article 100. It states located outside the building walls and under continuous cover such as roof extensions, canopies, marquees, roof porches, walkways, or attached garages. Secondly, the National Electrical Code intent of 230.70 is to protect service entrance conductors from physical damage. While the crawl space may be shallow, it is still considered to be within the building and accessible to unauthorized persons. This contradicts the intent of 230.70 to prevent damage from public access. Therefore, the service upgrade does not comply with National Electrical Code Section 230.70 because the service entrance conductors are not protected from physical damage by their location within the crawl space. Remediation options include two potential solutions. 1. Relocate the main service disconnects outside the building and use service entrance riser cable to the service panels. 2. Install a suitable raceway or conduit to protect the service entrance underground cable within the crawl space. In conclusion, while there may have been an intent to save labor and expense by running the service entrance underground cable through the crawl space, this decision has resulted in a safety violation and non-compliance with the National Electrical Code. It is recommended that the service upgrade be corrected to ensure code compliance and safety. Article 100 provides general definitions. Article 230 covers services. National Electrical Code Section 230.70 states that the service disconnecting means shall be installed at a readily accessible location either outside of a building or structure or inside nearest the point of entrance of the service conductors. The purpose of this requirement is to ensure that in the event of an emergency, such as a fire, the service disconnecting means can be quickly and easily accessed to energize the electrical system. The definition of readily accessible means capable of being reached quickly for operation renewal or inspections without requiring those to whom ready access is requisite to climb over or remove obstacles or to resort to portable ladders, and so forth. Consider the practical implications of running service entrance conductors through a crawl space. Crawl spaces are often damp, dirty, and may contain pests. The conductors could be exposed to physical damage from rodents, moisture, or accidental contact. Furthermore, access to the conductors for maintenance or repair would be difficult and potentially hazardous. The code emphasizes the importance of protecting service entrance conductors from physical damage. This is because these conductors carry a large amount of current, and a fault could result in a fire or other serious hazard. Installing the service disconnect outside the building or inside nearest the point of entrance provides a level of protection against physical damage. Consider also the interpretation of nearest the point of entrance. This phrase is not explicitly defined in the National Electrical Code, but it is generally understood to mean as close as practical to where the service conductors enter the building. The intent is to minimize the length of unprotected service entrance conductors inside the building. The longer the length of unprotected conductors, the greater the risk of physical damage. A crawl space, even a shallow one, is considered inside the building. The service entrance conductors are not considered to be outside the building if they are run through a crawl space. The exception is if the crawl space meets the definition of outside as defined in Article 100, which is unlikely. Even if the crawl space is not accessible to the public, it is still considered to be within the building. The service entrance conductors are still subject to physical damage from rodents, moisture, or accidental contact. The code requires that service entrance conductors be protected from physical damage. Running the conductors through a crawl space does not provide adequate protection. Therefore, the installation does not comply with National Electrical Code Section 230.70 The two remediation options are each viable solutions. Relocating the main service disconnect outside the building and using service entrance riser cable to the service panels would ensure that the service disconnecting means is readily accessible and that the service entrance conductors are protected from physical damage. Installing a suitable raceway or conduit to protect the service entrance underground cable within the crawlspace would also provide adequate protection for the conductors. The type of raceway or conduit would need to be appropriate for the environment and the type of conductors being used. Some additional factors to consider would be the type of service, the size of the conductors, and the ampacity of the service. These factors will determine the appropriate size and type of service disconnecting means, the size and type of conductors, and the type of raceway or conduit that is required. It is important to consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that the service upgrade is installed in accordance with the National Electrical Code and all applicable local codes and regulations. The electrician should be able to assess the specific situation and recommend the best solution to ensure code compliance and safety. Another consideration is the grounding and bonding requirements for the service. The National Electrical Code contains detailed requirements for grounding and bonding electrical systems. These requirements are intended to protect people from electric shock and to prevent fires. It is important to ensure that the service upgrade is properly grounded and bonded in accordance with the code. Furthermore, surge protection should be considered. Service entrance surge protection devices can protect sensitive electronic equipment from damage caused by voltage surges. These devices are typically installed at the service disconnect and can provide a valuable layer of protection for the electrical system. The National Electrical Code requires that surge protection be provided in certain situations, such as in dwelling units. While the contractor may have intended to save labor and expense by running the service entrance underground cable through the crawlspace, this decision has resulted in a safety violation and non-compliance with the National Electrical Code. The service upgrade should be corrected to ensure code compliance and safety. The location of the service disconnecting means is a critical safety feature. It is important to ensure that the disconnecting means is readily accessible and that the service entrance conductors are protected from physical damage. This will help to protect people from electric shock and to prevent fires. The authority having jurisdiction, or OJ, has the final say in interpreting and enforcing the National Electrical Code. The AHJ may have specific requirements or interpretations that differ from the general guidance provided in the code. It is important to consult with the AHJ to ensure that the service upgrade complies with all applicable requirements. In addition to the National Electrical Code, there may be local codes and regulations that apply to the service upgrade. These local codes and regulations may be more stringent than the National Electrical Code. It is important to consult with the local building department to ensure that the service upgrade complies with all applicable local codes and regulations. Service entrance underground cable is typically used for underground service entrances. It is a type of cable that is designed to be buried directly in the ground. Service entrance riser cable is typically used for overhead service entrances. It is a type of cable that is designed to be installed on the outside of a building. The choice of cable depends on the specific application and the requirements of the local codes and regulations. When installing a service upgrade, it is important to use the correct type of cable and to install it in accordance with the National Electrical Code and all applicable local codes and regulations. This will help to ensure that the service upgrade is safe and code compliant. In addition to the specific requirements for service entrance conductors, there are also general requirements for electrical wiring that apply to all electrical installations. These general requirements are intended to protect people from electric shock and to prevent fires. It is important to be familiar with these general requirements and to ensure that all electrical wiring is installed in accordance with the code. The National Electrical Code is a complex document, and it can be difficult to understand and apply. If you are not familiar with the code, it is important to consult with a qualified electrician. A qualified electrician can help you to ensure that your electrical installation is safe and code compliant. The National Electrical Code is updated every 3 years. It is important to stay up to date on the latest version of the code. You can purchase a copy of the code from the National Fire Protection Association website. You can also find information about the code on the NFPA website and on other websites. Another area to consider is proper labeling. All electrical equipment should be properly labeled to indicate its voltage, amperage, and other important information. This will help to prevent confusion and to ensure that the equipment is used safely. The service disconnect should be clearly labeled to indicate that it is the main disconnect for the building. This will help emergency responders to quickly and easily de-energize the electrical system in the event of an emergency. Furthermore, consider future expansion. When installing a service upgrade, it is important to consider the future electrical needs of the building. It may be wise to install a larger service than is currently needed to allow for future expansion. This will avoid the need to upgrade the service again in the future. When selecting a service disconnecting means, it is important to choose a device that is properly rated for the ampacity of the service. The disconnecting means should be able to safely interrupt the full amount of current that the service is capable of delivering. It is also important to choose a disconnecting means that is listed by a recognized testing laboratory, such as Underwriters Laboratories or Intertech. Consider the environmental conditions. The service disconnecting means and the service entrance conductors should be protected from the environmental conditions to which they will be exposed. For example, if the equipment will be exposed to moisture, it should be rated for wet locations. If the equipment will be exposed to extreme temperatures, it should be rated for those temperatures. The National Electrical Code contains detailed requirements for protecting electrical equipment from the environmental conditions. It is important to follow these requirements to ensure that the equipment is safe and reliable. In addition to the technical aspects of the service upgrade, it is also important to consider the aesthetic aspects. The service disconnecting means and the service entrance conductor should be installed in a neat and workmanlike manner. The installation should not detract from the appearance of the building. It is also important to ensure that the installation is accessible for maintenance and repair. The service disconnecting means should be located in a place where it can be easily reached for operation and maintenance. The service entrance conductors should be routed in a way that allows for easy access for inspection and repair. The National Electrical Code requires that all electrical installations be performed in a neat and workmanlike manner. This means that the installation should be free from defects and that it should be installed in accordance with the code. A neat and workmanlike installation is not only aesthetically pleasing, but it also helps to ensure that the installation is safe and reliable. If the service upgrade involves working near energized electrical equipment, it is important to take precautions to protect yourself from electric shock. Wear appropriate personal protective equipment, such as rubber gloves and safety glasses. Use insulated tools. And never work alone. It is also important to de-energize the equipment whenever possible. De-energizing the equipment will eliminate the risk of electric shock. The National Electrical Code contains detailed requirements for working on or near energized electrical equipment. It is important to follow these requirements to protect yourself from electric shock. The contractor has the responsibility for ensuring that the service upgrade is installed in accordance with the National Electrical Code and all applicable local codes and regulations. The contractor should be familiar with the code and should have the necessary skills and experience to perform the work safely and correctly. If you are not satisfied with the contractor's work, you have the right to file a complaint with the local building department. The building department will investigate the complaint and will take corrective action if necessary. The cost of a service upgrade can vary depending on the size of the service, the type of equipment being used, and the complexity of the installation. It is important to get several bids from different contractors before selecting one. Be sure to compare the bids carefully and to choose a contractor who is qualified and who offers a fair price. A permit is typically required for a service upgrade. The permit must be obtained from the local building department. The building department will inspect the work to ensure that it is installed in accordance with the National Electrical Code and all applicable local codes and regulations. Obtaining a permit is important because it helps to ensure that the work is done safely and correctly. It is also important to keep a copy of the permit on file for future reference. The National Electrical Code is a living document, and it is constantly being updated to reflect changes in technology and best practices. It is important to stay up to date on the latest version of the code to ensure that your electrical installations are safe and code compliant.